This is Chris and Rick Talk Guitars. That's Chris over there.
Hello.
I'm Rick. Today, not unlike other days, we're going to talk about pet peeves.
Oh, yeah. Here it comes.
Yeah, here it comes.
Not that this whole series isn't just a string of pet peeves.
Yeah, well, it's an excuse for us to air our pet peeves and rant about our pet peeves, regardless of who really wants to know or not. So to get the ball rolling, I know Chris has a long list of pet peeves that he's stored away in that little noggin. What do you got?
Well, I'd just like to start with a disclaimer that saying these pet peeves are kind of more a reflection of our shortcomings than the things that we're ranting on.
Well
but it might
said.
be interesting to get inside of these pet peeves and say, why does this irk you?
Let's unpack them.
It might unveil some fascinating things, or it might not. Just might be just old guys yelling at clouds. But I'm willing to give it a whirl if you are. And
Me
I'll
too.
kick it off by saying clip-on tuners.
Oh, yes.
I don't like clip-on tuners.
Okay.
It's amazing if you think about them, though, because this technology, compare the cheapest clip-on tuner that you can buy to like the old like desktop tuners of yore, and they're more accurate, they're more lightweight, fewer parts, but I don't like them. And let's try to figure out why I don't like them.
Let's unpack this, Chris.
Let's unpack it and see what it's underneath the dark underbelly of this pet peeve. I think what it is, partially, is that the headstock, to me, holds the essence of a guitar. If you think about the classic Tele headstock, the classic Stratocaster headstock, the classic Gibson headstock.
I see.
These things are things of beauty for someone like me.
Yes.
And you stick this cheap Casio junk on top of it, and it's just kind of distracting more than anything. I'm not going to argue for a moment that they aren't helpful, that they aren't, it isn't convenient. But at the same time, they bug me. And, we all have our pet peeves, and that's one of mine.
Okay. I accept that.
I will say, when I got my mandolin, and I was learning the mandolin, it came with a free clip-on tuner.
Oh, wow.
And while I was learning the tuning of that instrument, I clipped that on there. And, it was kind of a quick visual aid.
Okay.
It's great. Once I learned how to tune the instrument, though, I took it off.
Got it.
And I used the old ears or, a phone or any other kind of tuner I had out of there. So I know why people use them. They're super convenient, easy access. You can see them instantly. I don't like them. I don't. Sorry. Apologies to.
I kind of share your view on the clip-ons for what the reasons you cited. So, I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, man. Yeah, it's kind of funky. And again, like you say, maybe like around the house, it's kind of neat to have as training wheels and stuff like that. But when you're at a live show, it is kind of weird to see but I see them all over the place now. They got that clip-on tuner on the headstock on all these players. And
I once referred to it as the fanny pack of guitars accessories. And some people took issue with that, and I'm fine with that. Take issue. But I'm like, it's just kind of a novelty item.
I like that.
But again, go on YouTube. Yeah. Watch live concerts of people. They use them. And,
I know.
More power to it. You continue to use them. But I'll continue to seethe a little bit inside when I see them on a classic. It's almost like you have like a pre-war Martin, and you drill and you put it one of those preamps in the inside the guitar, so you have a pre-war Martin with a battery.
Right.
I don't know. I think people rely in general on tuners far more than they really need to.
Yeah. Because
everybody likes to have an instant visualization on stage. People are watching you. You want to be quick about it and stuff. But if you never interact with your instrument as far as bringing it in tune, I think you'll have a better ear if you're able to do that, and you make yourself do that more often. Another thing to point out is even the most accurate tuner, if you rely on that for completely to tune your guitar might not be as in tune as you think it is. Because, for me, my guitars, sometimes I have to flatten the G string to get it to sound into it. And I don't care what my tuner says. It's my ears that I'm going for.
Yeah.
So that might be part of it. Again, it's, use... Disclaimer. Back to the disclaimer. Use it to your heart's content.
Yeah.
But I hate them.
Just don't show me. Yeah.
Well, you give us one. Come on.
Well, one of my pet peeves is I go on YouTube and I see all these great guitar demos, and a lot of times these people can't bend up to pitch. And it's like you said, hey, play guitar, do your thing. I think it's awesome, but figure out. Maybe they're the ones that need the clip-on. Maybe they're the one that need the clip-on tuner so that they can see that they're really bending up to a G or a D or whatever it is. But yeah, they sit there and it's like I'm rooting for them, right? I'm like, go, you're doing it. You're almost there. Come on, a little more, and they don't make it. And it's like, dude.
Well, there's nothing wrong with, I mean, it's a process of learning to play guitar. And when I was learning how to play leads, it took me forever to get pitch correct. So there's that. But I kind of know what you're saying. The other thing that goes along with that really kind of chased me is shaking the guitar neck when there's actually no vibrato coming out.
Right.
It's like this visual thing. It's like I'm playing the solo and then I get to this note. Here's the sweet note, and you're like shaking the neck, but you're not getting any vibrato. Yeah. So it's just purely like this habit of like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be shaking this neck. It's like, if you're going to shake it, don't fake it. Get us some vibrato from that. That's where it came from.
It's
like
funny.
Shaking it. I see that a lot.
Yeah. I do too. And it's funny that they don't. You're right. It's like they're emulating what they've seen, but they're not doing it right, and they're not getting the sound that they're trying to.
Right, there's nothing coming out. It's like
there's nothing coming out.
It's not. You're not fully loaded or something. I don't know, but it's not doing what the neck shake was designed to do. So again, I mean, people learn to play guitar, and it takes a while, and whatever. I still have shitty habits that I need to break, but that kind of goes along with you not bending up to pitch.
Yeah.
The whole, I get it, because blues is kind of like easy. There's like a couple of scales you can grab right away and make sounds like similar to what you hear on records. But yeah, sometimes that can be painful.
Yeah, it is painful.
I know I was probably the most painful person in my house when I was learning to do that shit.
Well, we all were, yeah. And you're right. I mean, it depends on what stage, but it seems like the players I've seen do this seem accomplished at the guitar, but maybe it's just an ear thing where they don't hear. I don't know. Their pitch isn't all that great, but
right. I'd have to see what you're talking about, but I kind of think I know.
I'll bring examples.
But I'm going to throw another one out here right now because it just popped in my head. Middle pickups on Telecasters.
Ooh, yeah,
that one,
dude.
And here to go against my own pet peeve, I'd go, I hate it. It drives me nuts. It makes me angry. I don't like to see a Telecaster with a third pickup, and all someone has to say is. James Burton. I mean, James Burton, I'm not going to argue with that dude.
Right.
I mean, he's one of the reasons why I love the Telecaster so much, and he wants that middle pickup. His signature model has that middle pickup, so I'm not going to argue with that. But for me, and my own personal pet peeve, it comes down to the middle pickup on a Stratocaster is bad enough. That's where most of the horrible sounds that people make, also some good ones, but there's a lot of horror inflicted on modern music using that, and why bring that over to the Telecaster?
Exactly. The
Telecaster is perfect. It's the perfect guitar.
It is.
But again, opinion only, but it's a genuine pet peeve when I see that, someone, there's a Telecaster, oh cool. Oh.
I totally agree with that, and I mean, it's in line with that pet peeve, but it broadens it to the point where we've talked about somebody saying, I love a certain guitar, but when they show you the guitar they have, it's totally modded or you know what I mean? Like for a Tele, for instance. Oh, I love Teles. And then you'll see the guy's Tele and it's got humbuckers and a middle pickup and a Floyd Rose or a Kaler. It's like, okay, you don't really love... maybe you love the body style of a Tele, which is totally cool, but you don't love a Tele. Yeah. If you love a Tele, you love that one pickup in the bridge. And if it's not an Esquire, it's got a neck pickup. But that's the Tele. It's just and that's the cool thing about a Tele is it's just straightforward guitar, right? There's not a lot to it. It just does what it does, and it does it really well. Yeah. And you don't need that middle pickup. I agree, man.
No, obviously people disagree because there's so much of it. So go ahead and do that. But we're just we're focusing about us right now.
Yeah, it's all about us, man.
So
what do I like? What do I don't like?
Give me a pet peeve.
Well, one of my pet peeves now that I'm a reformed guitar stringer is the stringy, windy thing of death, which you pointed out, and
the
lockover, man, which I fell into that trap. But you're right. I started stringing my guitars traditionally again, and it's like I don't need that.
Well, explain what it is. For
okay, so it's kind of like a Shawshank knot or whatever it is, where the rabbit goes over the hole and under the hole when you're stringing your guitar. You string it through the hole, and then you wind it back around under the string, and so it
and pull it back.
Quotes again, pull it back so that it really locks the string into place and it won't slip right out of tune. But Chris rightly mentioned, it's like, well, it's not going to do that because A, B, C, and D, right, of physics. It's not going to do that. You put it through a hole and it's wound, it's not going to move.
What it does do is it gets your guitar person that's stringing your guitar to curse you.
Every time I did, I cursed myself when I had to read.
Because it never comes off very easy. And that reminds me of a pet peeve that has turned into like, oh, I'm over this pet peeve, was I never liked locking tuners because they seem a little bulky. I don't like bulky tuners to be, but they just seem kind of ridiculous because I never had problems with strings staying in tune or putting strings on. I thought that the way it had been done was fine. I didn't think we needed a fix for a problem that I didn't see that existed.
Got it.
But I got a Stratocaster that actually had locking tuners on, Fender locking tuners, and after a couple times change the strings, I go, oh, I get this. It's a lot easier. You pull it through and you clamp it down, and they're not too bulky. When I first got the guitar, it was my intention to pull those off and put on the classics.
You're like, God damn it.
Yeah, it's like, I like this guitar, but these tuners got to go. And after interacting with them for a while, okay, I get it. So, that was one pet peeve, but after, there is, if you see something that's out there and that's popular, even if it drives you nuts, it's probably a useful thing because millions of people adopt that. But again, pet peeve, I mean, we all have them.
Yeah,
I mean, it's great. And sometimes it's great to reflect on, why does that bother me so much? What does that say about me?
Exactly.
Usually it comes down to ignorance, and some of it is just opinion, and we all can have opinions and things like that. But I value opinions more when someone can explain, why do you hold that view?
Yeah.
And that's what this is about.
And at least that there's a reason. That's great. Yeah, but I think it's cool that you are a convert and you said, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. And sure enough, you found them useful, and it didn't chap your hide enough to change the tuners. I think that's cool.
It's fine, and they'll stay.
Yeah, they'll stay.
What else do we have?
Well, one of my pet peeves is mods. I'm a stock guy. Like, I love stock cars, stock guitars. And as we mentioned before, I think some guitars, they just got it right. I mean, it's just, maybe they don't intonate perfectly to some person's plec thing or something like that, but they just got it right. And again, if it's your taste to do that, knock yourself out. But I love a stock guitar or a stock pedal that just it's what it is, and or amps for that matter, modding an amp and like bastardizing the thing. I just consider, because I'm also like, once it's been tarnished, it's like tarnished. In the 70s, I did a silly thing to my Marshall because I essentially wanted two channels that were the same, but I wanted a clean channel put in my amp, and sure enough, the guy did what I wanted, but I'm like, oh, this is silly because it's not what I wanted. But
right.
And then from that day on, that amp was tainted for me because I did something ungodly to it, and which rightfully so. I was tortured for the rest of my life.
Well, I kind of agree. I'm not a mod person, but I did go through a phase where I explored this, and I think anybody would be great too if they're at all interested and to at least explore some things. I would recommend or hope that someone would stay away from valuable vintage stuff because somebody else down the road might want it. But like I said, I did a Tube Screamer mod.
That's true.
And I was glad I did it. I mean, I like to fix stuff. I like to repair and fix stuff. So I like to tinker with a soldering iron. But I agree. I mean, I think like the reason I'm drawn to a piece of gear is because it's cool. And I think I'm willing to give the dude who thought it out, designed it, and built it credit for like kind of knowing what he's doing. Yeah. It's why it became a classical piece of gear in the first place. So yeah, I'm happy with things. If it doesn't work for me, I'll just like, well, it doesn't work, and I'll get something that does. So I agree, but I understand. I mean, interacting with your gear is like, it's a great thing, and it's something that's very attractive to a lot of people. So I get that, but I'm with you. I hate, like I mentioned this too, I think, it's like when I see a picture of a Tube Screamer with a fucking switch, a true bypass switch drilled in, that's definitely a pet peeve of mine.
And I think it's cool to tinker with your gear. I did it when I was a kid, but it wasn't, and some of it was in the vein of mods, but mostly it was just like kind of trying to figure shit out, It's like, oh, what's going on in there, And I think that's totally cool because, it does get you closer to your gear, and you kind of know more about how it works and how these, switches and knobs work and what they control and all that other stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And go ahead.
And myth busting too. It's really
Yeah.
interesting because there's so much information out there, talking about tone caps and all this other, minutia that people just like go crazy over. If you have a chance to test those things, one interesting thing I found, and I'm not saying that this is conclusive scientific proof, but I found like in my vintage amplifiers, like tubes don't make a whole lot of difference, especially preamp tubes, because I have, on hand a bunch of like new old stock vintage and modern tubes, and I've like one day I was kind of curious, so I started plugging them in there. I heard absolutely no difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that that there is a difference in quality, and some will be microphonic more often or might not last as long. Some were probably built more durably to be more durable, but I don't think that there's a lot, and I could be wrong. I mean, certain amps might behave differently.
Yeah.
I've tried a Champ and a Princeton Reverb and a Sovtech, and I tried a whole shitload of preamp tubes, and I heard no difference enough to make me think, I'm going to seek out these more valuable tubes. I found tubes that I like that happen to be rugged, and they seem to last long, and I'll continue to use those. Another pet peeve that I have is, it's kind of like forum etiquette. And the other thing is I belong to a bunch of, guitar Facebook pages. Right. I like to fill my feed with joy. Uh-huh. And someone will list something for sale, and people will just start bagging on them for their price. If you don't agree with this person's price,
don't buy it.
Yeah, don't buy it. That's fine, but it's kind of like it's kind of a shitty thing to do.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I've seen the same thing. And I think it's just our impulses. We humans have this impulse to like assert ourselves in these situations and kind of just shoehorn our opinions, good or bad, into these conversations. And online, as we both know, has just exacerbated that. And exactly, it's like we see these things that some guy will or some gal will post a thing and say, "Oh, this is by far this guitar totally blows away a Les Paul hands down," or something like that. And it's like, okay, well, that may be your opinion, but I think
this copy of this Les Paul blows away this Les Paul.
Right. Yeah, and another pet peeve of mine is, going into some guitar stores and there's this super helpful per staff member, and no matter what I'm looking at, I mean, it could be a $5,000 Les Paul or whatever. I'm looking at this guitar and they go, "Oh yeah, I've got 2 of those at home." And it's like, don't tell me you own every piece of gear you've shown me today, because that's bullshit.
Or over the course of the last month, you must live in a warehouse.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to come to your house and see your collection of gear, because you own everything in the store.
Of guitars.
Yes, 2 of everything. Yeah, so that's one of my pet peeves, because it's just or just getting that classic. They've read the book on sales, right? And what, to compliment your shoes or some bullshit.
Right,
It's
Dale
like,
Carnegie.
Yes, Dale Carnegie. How to get people to like you. Yes, I hate that, because it's just right off the bat, it makes me feel uncomfortable, right? It's like you're trying to work me, and it's like, look, I just want to come in here, look at stuff, be a human being, show me some stuff. Don't tell me you own every piece of gear I've looked at today, because it's bullshit. It's total bullshit, and you're just turning me off.
Yeah, one of my pet peeves, and it possibly is just because I'm not smart enough to understand it, is the one owner principle of guitar sales, where someone will say, "Yeah, this is a one owner instrument." So if being a one owner instrument is so valuable to its resale, that means if I buy this guitar, I'm the second owner, so it's already worth less if I buy this. So I never get that. Do you know what makes it so desirable if it has a one owner?
Well, I'm just speculating, but I think it speaks to the fact that, hey, this guitar hasn't had a lot of wear and tear because it's been owned by this one person. But you and I both know, we've seen, quote, one owner guitars that look like it's been dragged behind somebody's pickup truck. So it's like, just saying this is a one owner guitar or piece of gear doesn't necessarily, to me, mean, again, it's probably some tactic, that they read about, saying,
you see it all the time. I mean,
it's like pre-owned, right, instead of used, right? Or it's all terminology to get you to the psychology of trying to get you to buy this thing, right? Because it's only been owned by one person, and they babied the thing. It's been under the person's bed for 30 years.
I want a 1,000 owner guitar, one that's got a story to tell.
Exactly. It's been in honky tonks and bars, and I love guitars like that. But again, you could see a guitar that looks exactly like that they claim is one owner, and it could be, right? Because the person maybe played the hell out of that guitar. But you're right.
I think it's meaningless, and if you really look at it, it's like it's not a selling feature, because as soon as it sells, it's no longer a one owner, so it's worth less. If you're trying to say it's worth more because of that.
Right. So. Yeah, and well, exactly. And that just speaks to the fact that it's just another tactic used by salespeople to get, like stock and sweet and tons of mojo, right? Like, whatever.
That word is a pet peeve of mine. I don't know.
But the one owner thing for sure, I think, is one of those that is glaringly silly and a tactic, used by salespeople to try to get you to buy the guitar.
There's probably a lot of them related to Guitar Store, since we both did work down in the minds of guitar shops.
Yeah, and speaking of guitar stores, there's Chris and I have both worked in guitar stores, and invariably, God bless them, there'll be some person that comes in and has to play at the loudest volume possible, and for long periods of time, and it can be very trying for people in the store to function at all when this is going on. But it's we kind of refer to it as wankers in guitar stores. What do you think about that? Have you had experience with that before?
I have, and I've been like in back rooms, like working, and like just the menagerie of like blues riffs, like of white blues riffs that filter through the wall over an 8-hour day. It's it gets a little bit trying, but people are checking shit out, so I get that. I mean, I certainly, if I go in a guitar store and I want to try a guitar, I don't like anything that I play. I mean, I'm just trying to play as little as I can and get the the essence of the guitar without annoying everybody and myself included.
Yeah, not playing an hour straight. I mean, some of these people just don't understand. They don't. It's like they're just playing for an hour long, and it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
So I've experienced that. There's probably a lot related to, as I say, related to the guitar shop.
Oh, yeah.
The guitar know-it-alls. I mean, you have them. I mean, I'm probably one. I don't know, but I try not to be annoying.
Or these days, it's the people that come and shop your store and then go, well, I can get this cheaper on eBay or Musician's Friend. It's like, and then, go for it.
You should go for it, and that's really not a very classy thing to say.
No.
I mean, my wife gets that in her. She has a gallery, boutique shop, and people, talking about price is just it's not a very good etiquette. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, who taught you to do that? It's like, is this like a bazaar? The goats around here, and you're gonna haggle for something? It's like the prices are clearly marked.
Yeah.
And most places like guitar shops, given the history, there's been, there's some room sometimes to wiggle on, but it's not like that everywhere. And I just buy what stuff costs. I mean, I know that when I want to buy it, that's what it costs, because they've helpfully, put a sticker on it that says that.
Right.
And yeah, I mean...
And these shops, like you and I both have shops that we're really fond of that I'm glad are still around. And they unlike Musician's Friend or these other online places, they have a brick and mortar store to maintain. They have a staff to maintain. So I understand that going into it. I'm going into their store. I see the prices. It's like, maybe I could get this cheaper from Musician's Friend or something else, but I'd rather support this local store because I dig the people that run the store. And I dig the fact that this guitar store or this music store still exists in this day and age, that I can go in and they don't hassle me, and I dig what they have. And so it's, and it to your point, it's rude. It's like, okay, so you, in your mind, you can get this cheaper. Don't tell the patron of the store, because he's just going to go, well, knock yourself out. Go on eBay and get it if you can, but don't bust my balls because you think my prices are too high, it's just dumb.
There's no difference in that and the store owner going, that's a really fucking ugly shirt you're wearing. It's just, you're right, it is rude, and it just, you don't do that.
No.
That's a pet peeve of mine too. Thanks for bringing that up.
You're welcome, Chris.
I'm getting angry now,
dude.
No, I'm not.
Take a chill pill.
I don't care about any of this stuff. Like I said, anybody that wants to do any of this stuff that we don't like, go ahead. But
we're just talking about
shit.
I mean, we're just snapping our suspenders, talking about shit,
exactly.
on the porch, man, whittling a stick,
That's right.
watching the people go by.
All right. Did we touch on enough pet peeves? What about, we talked about effects, not directly, but we talked about modifications.
Oh, yeah.
Amps, guitars, modifications.
Yeah.
I'm sure I have a million pet peeves, but maybe we should make this a multi-part series.
I think we should, because
subject.
Yeah, because we still have so much to unpack. I mean, we don't have therapists, so it's cathartic for us to get this stuff out in the open so that we can just live our lives. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
And we didn't. I actually let it go by without saying anything, but the word Luthery is.
Dude, that's a major one.
That's a major one for me.
We got to touch on that, because that is one of the mothers of pet peeves for you.
Of mine, yeah. But
that's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a ridiculous word to use in the modern days for me. But I'm sidelined on this one because it's the acceptable terminology.
No, don't be sidelined.
But it's used for somebody who changes your strings, and I think like guitar tech and guitar builder will cover anything, and it sounds nice and modern.
I totally agree.
I got to go see my luthier.
Yeah, and
he's going to change my strings.
Yeah, after you go get your dram
guitar.
of medicine from your apothecary. Right. Yeah,
exactly.
If you're going to call yourself a luthier, there's certain parameters you have to live by. You have to wear tights.
You have to
wear the pointy little shoes. You have to be on a horse. You have to measure things in drams.
And most importantly, you have to make lutes.
Yes, you have to make lutes. You can't get off the hook, man. If you're a luthier, you have to make lutes. And you have to have a clip-on tuner on that damn headstock.
And you shop at cobblers. You take your shoes to the cobblers when they need to be resold.
Yes. And you have to have a feather in your hat. Is that a prerequisite?
Okay. It should be, but no. Like I said, on that one, I am left in the cold on that one because I'm probably the only one who feels that way. But it is a pet peeve of mine. Every time I hear that, I just kind of flinch a little.
I think there's a silent majority out there that are just waiting for a leader like you to lead the anti-luthier movement.
I will lead this movement. Guitar tech. I'm going to my guitar tech.
Yeah.
I'm having a guitar built. A guitar builder is going to build me a guitar. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I mean, it sounds like it sounds like something that happens today, not like in days of yore.
I'm having my lute built
totally
in the past. I'm going back in time to pick up my lute. Yes, I see what
I'm getting a K&K pickup system installed in my lute. I'm going to see the lute.
An LR bag system put into my lute.
LR Baggins.
LR Baggins. Oh my goodness.
I think that's a good one to end this
I think so too. All right. Well, thanks for listening as always. We super appreciate you guys out there in the ether listening to this silly ranting and raving by us. Go check us out on iTunes. Give us positive ratings, not negative ones, and Spotify. And then check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And communicate with us, man. Tell us what you think and give us your opinions on topics you'd like us to cover.
Tell us your pet peeves about our show.
Yes, please. Bring it on.
I know there's many.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Goodbye. Spangled